It is Friday on Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here. Happy to be back for another day. Hope you guys are having a great day out there today. Hope you guys are having a better day than the Vikings had on Thursday. They got absolutely walloped, humbled, humiliated, however you want to say it. 37-10 out in Los Angeles against the Chargers. They are now 3-4 this season. Their fortunes, their misfortunes are going to make up the bulk of today's show. I did not do a post-game live show last night. Full disclosure, our middle schooler was in a play. It was the opening night, so I was like kind of, okay, when's this going to get over? What's going to be kind of the lay of the land after it's all done? Wanted to enjoy it, not worry about it. Get home, try to catch up to the game as best I can. It's third quarter. I'm kind of speeding through some of the mishaps in the first half. Go back and watch it later for more clarity on what I want to say today. But long story short, it did not warrant a single game kind of post game breakdown because everything about it was bad and everything about it was kind of more of a big picture, holistic, we were leading up to this moment kind of thing. And so I thought it would be better today to do something more big picture on this team, these Vikings. Now, get into it at the end of the show. We'll talk about something other than the Vikings. We got World Series starts today. Wild are starting a big homestand. Wolves play tonight against the Lakers. Then they have their home opener Sunday. Loons have a playoff game on Monday. Gopher football, massive game against Iowa coming up tomorrow. There's plenty of other things going on in Minnesota sports to capture our attention that I'll get into briefly at least at the end of the show. First, though, what did I miss? We got to go deep on the Vikings. Deep on the Vikings. We got to go. We got to get in there. We got to get our hands dirty and acknowledge this. They are a bad team. Say it with me. They are a bad team. Forget about what you knew last year when they went 14-3 and we got really surprised and excited. Forget about what you thought you knew at the start of the season when, they had J.J. McCarthy and they got all these free agents and we're going to run it back. We got the guys from last year and the guys from this year and a new quarterback. Let's go. Comeback victory in the first game, even though they don't look great doing it. Let's go. Everybody's fired up. They are not a good team. They are an extremely flawed team from top down. And that means general manager. Right now, that means the head coach. Right now, that means the defensive coordinator. And that certainly means a lot of the players, the way this is put together, the way everybody's playing right now, the concepts, how they are bringing people back from injury. That's also a question. We'll get into that. A lot of what they've done through 7 games really calls into question not just individual performances, but the plan for 2025. So let's get into that. What really concerns me about this team right now is that they don't have an identity. There's no single thing that this team does well right now. Tell me what they do well right now. They can't pass. You saw that. Carson Wentz didn't have much time to throw on Thursday. Certainly, for the sake of everybody involved and maybe even Carson Wentz, I hope those were the last passes he throws in a Vikings uniform in 2025 or, Vikings uniform ever. He's gutted it out. He has played through pain. He has gotten them 2 wins in 5 games, which, take it for what it's worth. They're still 3-4. He's just not. There's just not much there in the tank. It's a bad fit with how injured this team is with what they need. They probably need a more mobile quarterback, someone like J.J. McCarthy can make plays with his feet. And Kevin O'Connell did say if J.J. is healthy against the Lions, he will play. Gotta think he's got to be healthy by then, guys. It'll be like 7 weeks. It's like, what is this ankle? What's the ankle injury? What exactly is going on here? What's the holdup? Anyway, injuries are what they are. Sometimes they take longer to heal. We'll give them the benefit of the doubt in that area. But right now, with Carson Wentz, and before Wentz came in, let's be honest, like JJ McCarthy was not playing well before he got hurt. They have a bad passing offense right now, which when you have the receivers they have, especially, one of the five best receivers in the game, Justin Jefferson, maybe the very best, and then another great number two in Jordan Addison, who'd be a one on a lot of teams with the mental firepower that they have calling plays, so many former quarterbacks, et cetera, et cetera. It should be better, but instead, it's the worst. Dead last in Pro Football Focus's grades, rankings in passing offense right now. That is your 2025 Minnesota Vikings. Again, a lot of factors go into that. The offensive line has been banged up. We'll get into that more later. The quarterback play, though, has been bad no matter who has been in there for most of the season. They can't run. That's not their identity either. They're 23rd in Pro Football Focus's rushing grades. They got nothing going on the ground yesterday against the Chargers. It's really been sporadic this season. Jordan Mason is a nice back, but I think they kind of like thought of him a half level too high. Aaron Jones came back last night. It's great to have him back. He's not going to come save the day, though, at this stage of his career. He's going to be helpful. He is a good player to have going forward. He will be useful to the team. He'll be useful to JJ McCarthy if and when he's able to play, but that is not a savior. So 23rd in rushing offense leaves you an overall offense of 25th. 25th in the Pro Football Focus offensive ratings. Now, you might be able to get away with that if you were playing elite level defense. And we went into this season saying, man, they might have the best front seven of any team in the NFL. Look at how stacked they are. Man, the new guys in the middle, Hargrave and Allen. And then you got the edge rushers, Van Ginkel and Jonathan Gennard. Gennard's been pretty good. Van Ginkel's been hurt almost all of this season. But hey, don't worry about it because you got Dallas Turner waiting in the wings to take all those snaps, absorb those snaps while Van Ginkel's out. Dallas Turner's been a no-show a lot of times. He has not been good. His most notable play last night was a late hit on Justin Herbert. That is not good to see. Overall on defense in the Pro Football Focus grades, they are 23rd. 23rd in defense now. And that's, they've had some injuries there. Cashman was out for a while. They did started the season without Harrison Smith, Van Ginkel. Like, I'm not saying they haven't had injuries, but that's like a medium level of injuries compared to kind of how you might look at others. Like these should be surmountable injuries. These shouldn't be defense wrecking, defense defining injuries, but instead they have been. Instead, they are now a subpar defense. They played another subpar game last night. They gave Jalen Hurts a perfect passer rating 2 games ago against the Eagles, and then last night gave up 200 yards on the ground, over 400 yards total offense, if I'm not mistaken. Could have been worse on the scoreboard if the Chargers hadn't, kind of had to settle for some field goals, taking foot off the gas, things like that. 37-10 tells the story even more than just, Pro Football Focus grades. But 23rd overall, 22nd in their coverage grades. So in a below average coverage in terms of, most of that's your corners, and then of course your safeties, maybe a little bit of your linebackers in coverage over the middle. Isaiah Rodgers had one great game against the Bengals, had a play last night that could have tilted the game in the beginning. Chargers first drive after the Vikings had to punt. Herbert looked like he got picked off, pick 6 by Rodgers. I thought it was a bad call that they overturned it. I didn't like the replay official on the broadcast said I didn't see enough to overturn it. I thought that should have been an interception and a touchdown for the Vikings. It gets overturned though. And then That doesn't change the fact, and one play doesn't change the fact, though, that they are pretty shaky overall in coverage. Byron Murphy's still good. Metellus had a pick last night. They at least got one takeaway from Metellus, but Rodgers, he's not perfect. He had a really bad day against the Eagles. Jeff Okudah got burned a couple times. Like, they're just not great in coverage. I think that grade 22 is fair. The surprising number, 22nd in pass rush. 22nd in pass rush. And again, that speaks probably to Van Ginkel's been out all season, almost all season. He played a little bit in that Bengals game, had an impact, but hasn't played since then. He's got that neck injury. You got to hope he's coming back soon. He's an impact player, of course. Grenard has been good, but not as great as last season. And part of that, I think, is that, without Van Ginkel, defenses can really load up on Grenard because Dallas Turner, again, we'll get more to him later, has not been very good this season, has not been an impact player, does not make splash plays. So 22nd in pass rush. Sometimes they're getting pressures, they're not making the tackle. Sometimes they're not getting home at all. Quarterback's just sitting back there making plays. Run defense, 21st. So you can't defend the pass. You're giving up tons of yards on the ground. Sometimes it's understandable, right? Bijan Robinson, he's special. He's gonna get his, right. There's been some other good backs. The guy from Cleveland, he was really good too. Like, sometimes it's just the other team has a talented guy. Chargers are on like their third string running back. They let Herbert run wild out of the pocket yesterday. Over 200 yards rushing. You can't do that. So 23rd overall on defense, 25th overall on offense. They have no identity right now. There's not a single thing on offense or defense that you can say, man, this team really does that well. That is a problem. Their best things, probably their special teams, probably their kicker. They're tied for 4th in their special teams grade, which is nice. That would be like a nice thing to have if they were a good team. If you had a middling offense and a middling defense, maybe your special teams can save the day for you. But when you're below average in both of those things, special teams can only do so much. Will Reichard, he's probably their best, their best player. And yesterday, even he had a play yesterday where he missed a field goal, a very makeable field goal, his first miss this season that didn't hit a camera wire. By the way, Al Michaels basically getting taken to task at some point, basically during the broadcast, talking about how Reichard had a kick hit the wire in London. He said during the first half of the game, he said it was his first missed field goal that hadn't hit a wire. Second half, he said, the league wants to take my lunch away because I said before that Reichard's only miss was hitting a wire in London. The league says, no, it was an optical illusion. That's not what Reichard thinks. Anyway, there you have it. So that is interesting, an interesting subplot to the game. But Reichard's been really good this season. I was surprised his field goal came up short. It was like 53 yards, but they had to kind of scramble. They had no timeouts. Wouldn't have really impacted the game overall outcome. They were outclassed from the beginning in this game. So there's your overview, right? Bad on offense, bad on defense, no identity. Now let's get into how we got here. The offseason plan was bad. We thought it was good. They thought it was good. We trusted it because it worked last season. Everybody they brought in last year, they pretty much hit. Van Ginkel, awesome. Returning balls for touchdowns, being disruptive in the pass game, being a good edge setter, like versatility. He was great. Cashman last season, same thing. He missed a few games last season. You could tell. Even the corners they brought in last season, Gilmore, he was solid. Like they had a solid plan last season with their defensive additions. Offensive, he brought in Aaron Jones, Sam Darnold. I know I'm probably missing somebody here, like Grenard. Like they brought in all these guys last season that, by and large, all of them hit. And it was like, man, this is great. Let's just do it again. So, you bring in Jonathan Allen, Javon Hargrave, you bring in Jeff Okudah, you bring in Isaiah Rodgers, you decide what you're doing at quarterback. You bring in a couple offensive linemen from the Colts. You draft Donovan Jackson. You say, look, it worked last season. Turns out you can't just keep papering over mediocre drafts with free agency home runs, because one thing I thought going into this season was it was going to be hugely important because they had a small draft class this season. They had Donovan Jackson, and they're all the way down to the fourth round. They've given up a bunch of picks already to move up, get their quarterback, stuff like that. So I was like, okay, but you have McCarthy and Dallas Turner, number one picks from 2024, who just didn't play much last season. McCarthy, not at all. Turner kind of sitting behind Grenard and Van Ginkel, learning, playing some, but not really like emerging. So you're like, okay, going into 2025, this is kind of like bonus picks, or this is like, okay, this is that draft class chance to shine. McCarthy's barely played. Turner has been a no-show a lot of times, so that's problematic. The free agents they have brought in so far this season have not had the same impact. It's not even close. Isaiah Rodgers, like I said, had that splashy game against the Bengals, but he's been hit or miss. Aside from that, Okudah, he's just a guy. He's been okay. The big problems have been on the lines. The interior defensive linemen have been bad. The two guys they brought in, Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave, huge disappointment so far. They were supposed to fix the pass rush. They were supposed to give them all this depth. They traded away Harrison Phillips, a run stuffer in the middle in the preseason. Like, we got too many guys. We're too good. Allen and Hargrave have PFF grades of 62 and 67. That's rankings, not grades. 62 and 67 out of 75 qualified interior defensive linemen. 62nd and 67th. Now, Jalen Redmond's been really good. That helps in the interior in that kind of rotation. Levi Drake Rodriguez has been pretty good, but the two guys they brought in, the veterans they brought in, have just not given them that push, not given them that impact on the interior of the line that they got last season. The free agents they brought in from the Colts, Will Fries has been fine. His grade is pretty good. He's played every game. Ryan Kelly, unfortunately, 2 more concussions. That's 5 documented concussions. He is on injured reserve right now. So you start to question, like, man, you knew he had this concussion history. Was that really the direction to go? Could you count on him? And you really haven't been able to so far. It's unfortunate, but the offensive line upgrades have been mixed. Donovan Jackson's been okay. I think he's going to be okay at guard. The tackles, of course, it's a different story, right? They've been injured. O'Neal and Darisaw to varying degrees. Like, I get it. That's probably fundamental story number one, is you have not been able to count on your tackles. I'm not dismissing that. I'm not discounting that. But I am saying the rest of the plan around that it turns out was flawed. The quarterback plan was questionable in hindsight. Nothing we saw in J.J. McCarthy's 6 healthy quarters before he hurt his ankle against the Falcons and kept playing. Nothing we saw in those healthy quarters indicated that he was a lock to be the starter for 17 games this season. Nothing we saw. You could say all you wanted about the preseason, all you wanted about training camp, everything that led up to that. I watched him in training camp a few times. I was like, man, this guy holds the ball too long. When the lights come on for real, the game's going to be too fast. He's going to be 0.3 of a second too slow, and that's all it takes in the NFL to be late with the ball to get it picked off, late to not get the maximum yardage, or late getting sacked and on the ground, sometimes a turnover there too. Now he's also been sidelined for 23 of 25. That counts last year's playoff game. 23 of 25 games since he was drafted, right? He played the 2 games this year. He's ostensibly sat 5 this year. I know he was the emergency quarterback the last 2, but that's not really like in the line of fire. He's probably not going to play unless, of course, it's an emergency. And then last year he missed all the games, all 18 counting the playoff games. So 23 of 25 he has missed. And when he's been in there, there's been nothing to indicate that he was going to be holding that job, locking it down for 17 games. So you should have had an idea of that, right? You should have said, man, guy coming off an injury, guy coming off of what we know about him, still young. Why were they hanging on to Sam Howell for so long? Why get desperate and go for Carson Wentz so late in the preseason? Why not have a better established veteran plan? I'm not talking about necessarily Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones would have been nice, but he had a better opportunity to go play in Indy, and he is running with that, by the way. They're 6-1. He's been great. Darnold's been really good in Seattle. That's a little bit of hindsight, revisionist history. Like, it's probably hard to get a quarterback in here if they know they're probably destined to be the backup. But I do think they could have had a better plan coming into the season, especially knowing what we've seen from McCarthy so far this season. Now, again, it's not all of this is on the quarterback. The tackles are a big deal, right? The tackles are a big deal. Dallas Turner being a no-show on defense, that's a big deal. He's 58th out of 70 graded PFF edge rushers. We've got to get to the offensive line, though, because still, the tackles are a big deal. The Christian Darrisaw plan feels very, if not flawed, then just very strange to me right now. I don't know from week to week how many snaps he's going to play. I don't think they do either. I don't think he does either. That's a problem. How can you game plan when you don't know if your, top flight left tackle is going to be in the game or not? I mean, you went into this game against the Chargers at least knowing O'Neal was out. He's out. Okay? You got to deal with that. Darrisaw played, I think, 9 snaps, and then that was it for him. I don't know what exactly the plan is, how this rehab is going, why they're being so secretive about the exact nature of his injury or why he's kind of like testing it out, feeling it, stuff like that. He's like a car with a questionable battery right now where you're always wondering if he's going to start. Like, it's just, you can't live that way. You can't exist that way. That is a problem to me. Like, whatever the plan is with Christian Darrisaw, I don't know if it gets better if you can just rest him for a couple more weeks, if it's going to be like this management thing all season where he just can't play if he's got certain snaps. Like, maybe I'll get to this in a minute. Like, maybe once you get into some more normal weeks, this has had a weird schedule this year with the overseas games, with everything that they've had to deal with the Thursday night game. It's been a weird season. A lot of primetime games early in the year. Like, there's not been a sense of normalcy to their schedule, and I think that's definitely hurt the Darrisaw plan. The plan feels flawed, though. It just feels weird. I know they're managing it as best they can. I think O'Connell is trying to say the right things. Maybe he's internally, I don't know if frustrated is the right word, but maybe he's just like us, where he's like, I don't know what I'm going to get from game to game out of him. We got to trust him. We got to trust the doctors. I'm not the expert here. It's got to be hard, though, to game plan when you don't know how much you're going to get on a 60-minute basis from Christian Darrisaw. Vikings have had the lead for 23 minutes outside of the Bengals game. I keep citing that stat because every week they don't lead. This game against the Chargers, they fell behind 14-0 early. They certainly never led in this game. They never led in the Eagles game. 23 minutes in 6 games that they have had a lead, that they've been playing with a lead. The Bengals game, obviously, was a much different story. They led, coast to coast in that game, so that's a full 60. But every other game, they've been primarily playing from behind or tied. Hard to do what you want to do on offense in those cases. Hard to be the kind of turnover-generating defense when you're always playing from behind, because then the other team is unpredictable. They're not as static. They're not as desperate. So it all adds up to me that they're a bad team. Now, I did get a counterpoint on social media. I want to drop that in there right now. It's got so he's Crom's Corner said, bad as those teams with 1 or 2 wins, the Vikings are super meh, but they can't get worse. Who they play never seems to matter, so I don't care about the strength of schedule. Just need that butterfly effect to kick in. It's all in the margins. I bet they make the playoffs. That is a very generous reading of where they are right now, because I think Pro Football Focus doesn't like them that much at all. They're way down in the rankings. ESPN's Football Power Index also has a pretty negative viewpoint of the Vikings. Let's look at that right now. Football Power Index projected to win 6.7 games at this point. 6.7. That is where they're at right now. They're 3-4. They give them a 5% chance of making the playoffs. A 5% chance. 1 in 20 right now. And I'm not saying you can't. They're probably going to have to go 7-3 the rest of the way now. I mean, I did that math with the Chargers game before they play the Chargers. It felt like they had to go 7-4 in the next 10. I'm sorry, in the next 11 from there to make the playoffs to get to 10 wins. So now you're talking about 7-3. You still got to play Lions twice. Still got to play the Packers twice. You still got to play, the Ravens. You still got to play at Seattle. Like, I see a lot of losses on the schedule. I see a lot more losses than wins, and so does so does the ESPN rankings, basically saying 7-3. I don't think so. Probably more like 4-6, maybe even 3-7 in their next 10. But again, I'm not saying it can't happen, and that's maybe where I want to end this Vikings segment, because if you're looking for any kind of kernels of optimism, what's the good news? Tell me the good news. Well, maybe they can get hot, but beyond that, here's what I see as the good news. We can stop pretending now that they're in a position to contend. The last 10 games of the season are all about one thing: getting a full read on JJ McCarthy in the best possible way. That means cutting him loose a little bit. That means letting him play through some stuff. That means O'Connell probably taking the kid gloves off a little bit and saying, okay, go make some mistakes. Go play through this. We'll learn from this. I can't be in your headset all the time. It's cut off in the final 15 seconds where McCarthy, has to process, has to do it himself. He can't handhold all the way through, but they got to find out. They got to get a full read on him. Is he for sure the guy in 2026? Is he making progress? Can you trust him to not only make the right plays, but also to stay healthy? None of these boxes have been checked yet, but it will be easier to find out about these things if the Vikings just give themselves over to his development and not try to worry about, can we get to 9-8, 10-7? Can we squeak into the playoffs? Like right now, it's got to be all about JJ McCarthy. And I think going back to the start of the season, it kind of was anyway, but they were trying to have it both ways. And, sometimes that works. They were trying to have it both ways, and they've ended up now in a position where the roster doesn't seem to fit all that well. They've got a lot of veterans, not a lot of like super young talent, but I do feel like McCarthy can still be in a position to succeed. He should come back to a better situation than the one we left. Hopefully, for the Vikings' sake, 10 days between games now. It's like what they call the mini bye, the stretch of normalish weeks. Maybe means more consistent snaps for Darisaw. Maybe gives O'Neal what he needs to get back healthy for the Detroit game and be healthy the rest of the season. And McCarthy didn't have Darisaw for either of his starts earlier this year. Didn't have his favorite training camp target, Jordan Addison, in those 2 early season games either. Presumably, he can have those guys for the rest of the year, hopefully, especially if they kind of get into a regular rhythm with Darisaw, if they can get O'Neal back healthy. So this team can be better than what they've been, but right now they're bad, and they need to turn it over to McCarthy. He's got to be healthy for the Detroit game. There's no excuse for him not to be healthy for the Detroit game. You can't hold him back any longer. You got to find out. He should be in a position to succeed, but that's going to be relative because this team has enough flaws around him defensively, offensively, that this is just not going anywhere fast. So that's a disappointment. I think that's a big disappointment for Thursday. I really thought they had a chance to win that game. The Chargers did not come into that game with any kind of momentum. They were 1-3. They got a little healthier. Maybe the Vikings getting healthier going into Detroit. It's going to be that's a hard game no matter what, even if you were playing well. But maybe they can at least start feeling better about how they're playing in that game if they can get some guys back healthy, feel like the plan, whatever plan they started the year with, maybe they can finally start to get to that in game 8. Because right now, through 7 games, it's a bad team. Seems like a bad plan. There is a lot at stake over these last 10 games. Like I said at the beginning of the show, let's go rapid fire here in the cooler. A bunch of stuff non-Vikings related to keep on your radar. Wolves tonight at LA against the Lakers. I don't know, some of you might have done a double, might have doubled up and done the Chargers game Thursday and the Lakers-Wolves game Friday. Certainly hope for your sake that this one goes better than the Thursday Night Football game did. Wolves won their opener against Portland. The West is amazing right now. Like San Antonio looks legit. Wemby looks amazing. I watched a good portion of the end of that Golden State Denver game. Like Golden State might be one of the 3 best teams in the West. Like they are going to be good this season. It feels like one last ride or one last wave for Steph. He's got Jimmy Butler, Draymond's there, Al Horford. Like it feels like, an all-star team from 2017, but these guys can still play. They're still good. That to me is a really good team. Denver's going to be right there. Oklahoma City, we know about them. Houston gave Oklahoma City all they can handle. I think Houston's due for a regression, but I still think they're a good team. Like the Wolves are going to have a dogfight pretty much every game in the West this season. There are not really any bad teams, maybe Utah the exception, but everybody else is trying to win. Everybody else could be good in the West this season. It's going to be an amazing season to watch. It's going to be tense. It's going to be difficult for them. I still think they have a good team too. I want to see a little bit more from the point guards when they play the Lakers because it really struck me. DiVincenzo started the other night. Conley came off the bench. Dillingham was available and healthy. None of those guys played a single minute in the fourth quarter of that win over the Blazers. It was Bones Highland for 8 minutes and then basically Point Ant for the last 4 with Terrence Shannon, his running mate. Not a bad lineup. I like the lineup, but you can't piece it together like that every night. You're going to have to get more from your point guards, your regular rotation guys at a certain point. So I'm watching for that tonight. Wild. 6 games at home after that long and bad road trip starting tomorrow against the Utah Mammoth. I mean, it takes a while to get used to that. Utah Mammoth. This is a big stretch for them, obviously, right? You got 6 home games. Can they find something? Their 5-on-5 play has been pretty bad most of this season. The power play was propping them up for a while. It hasn't been propping them up lately. They're 0 for like their last 11 on the power play. They got to figure it out. They got to. If they keep saying we're a good team, show us you're a good team, and then we'll believe you. Gophers told us they were a good team before they beat Nebraska. PJ Fleck kept insisting we're a good team. This is a really good football team. We hadn't seen a ton of evidence of that, even when they started 4-2. We saw that for 60 minutes last week against the Cornhuskers. That was a dominant 24-6 win. Now they're 5-2. Can they do it again now against Iowa? Another good team on the road, different kind of environment, different kind of atmosphere. You don't have your home crowd propping you up. If you can win that game tomorrow, you start to grow an even bigger sense of belief. I'm not saying they have to win this game for some sort of program do or die kind of thing. But man, this one, if you can win it, that changes the complexion of the season, maybe changes the complexion of what we think of this program. Loons, playoff game Monday, Seattle, best 2 out of 3. They play this one here in Minnesota, the next one in Seattle, then if necessary, back in Minnesota after that, spread out over 10, 15 days, something like that. So we will see if they can beat Seattle. They have home field. They were the 4 seed. Seattle's the 5 seed. Traditionally has been a tough opponent for them, a menace to them, but they have an opportunity to do that. World Series starts tonight. Dodgers, Blue Jays. So tonight, then they play Saturday. Sunday and off day, maybe looking at that as a possible time the Twins could announce a new manager. We'll see about that. They don't like them announcing these things during the World Series, but off days are okay. If it's not Sunday, maybe it could be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday is the next 3. Thursday, the 30th, could be a time to look for a Twins managerial hire as well. That's around the time that Rocco Baldelli was hired. 7 seasons ago, the whole cycle ago, 7 cycles ago. So watch for that. Watch the World Series. Tons of other stuff this weekend that I probably didn't even talk about. You don't have the Vikings to aggravate you on Sunday, so get outside, go do something else. They aggravated you plenty last night. We'll see. We'll see what the rest of the year has in store. It's been a bad 7 games. They've looked bad for the majority of the time. Still a chance to turn this season around. Still a chance to see what you have in J.J. McCarthy. That's what the whole year is about right now. So that will do it for me today. Like I said, no Viking Sunday, so no post-game Sunday. Back at it again Monday with Royce.